What is up, down, and sideways, you stunning individuals? It's another episode of League Unlocked, flying Han Solo on that Millennium Falcon today, as we are not even days, mere hours away from the 2026 mid-season invitational kicking off, and some teams, they want to steal the headline right before that event takes place, because we got some wild, maybe questionable off-season moves happening in both Europe and North America. And we'll start with the tasty one from NA. I mean, first and foremost, we have this fun little invitational going on, and you have squads like Cloud9 losing to the DN Supers, who were close to setting a record for the longest losing streak in LCK history, and they are losing to them, courtesy of Cloud9. And now we're hearing there are changes coming after an absolute disaster of a playoff run. Going to be a 7-man roster heading into Split 3. And again, a little preamble for this whole thing. Making big roster changes right before the final split of the year kind of reeks of desperation to try and qualify for Worlds. But, you know, I digress on that one. So 7-man roster for Cloud9. Tactical joining at AD carry, and yes, that same Tactical from Team Liquid. If you haven't been following him, he's actually kind of been smurfing in the NACL. He's won 3 splits in a row across Luminosity Gaming, who are far and away the best team for a couple splits, and then Conviction with your boy Sniper in the top lane. So he's been doing well in Tier 2, despite kind of floundering out his last couple of years splits in the LCS. And then it is the return of the prodigal son in the mid lane, Loki, after his stint with the Bros in the LCK, where he pretty quickly got swapped out for Roamer, returning to Cloud9. Obviously, we know he left kind of for homesickness to return to Korea, but a split or two with the Bros, and he comes back to the LCS. So Loki going to be splitting time, maybe with APA. Tactical, the same for Sven. We know how 7-man rosters go, and we know there needed to be changes for this squad. I mean, I like Sven just kind of still being on the squad. I feel like Tactical 100% should be getting the start over him. But Sven, we know he's a cerebral player and a savvy veteran who has a lot of game knowledge. APA working with Loki, I mean, again, mechanically, individually, I think a lot of people have talked about this Cloud9 roster not being up to par with even domestic opponents in Lion, Team Liquid, FlyQuest. So Loki, obviously, a bit more of a hands gap than somebody like APA. And I know people probably wanted Blabber to be changed, but heading into the final split, you can't just completely revamp the entire roster. Save that for the offseason. So I'm tentatively okay with this 7-man roster coming in, even though Blabber has been highly suspect. And then we get to the coaching staff. Inero stepping down as head coach. I will dominate, getting promoted. Yamato Cannon joining as an assistant coach. I know people are making a big deal about him straight up flaming Cloud9 on recent podcasts, whatever videos he's done online, but nonetheless, here he comes, joining the squad. And then Arrow, who has actually been a fantastic bot lane coach, kind of specifically joining the squad as well. But I will dominate coming in as the main head coach. If you watched any of the behind the scenes, the blueprint, I think it's called, for Cloud9 with all their voice comms, your boy Dom looked tilted many times, especially in the playoff ones, for just some egregious errors, miscommunications out of the boys, and you see the behind the scenes of him getting visibly and vocally frustrated. And I mean, obviously he's a strong, dominating personality, which is what you want out of a head coach. You want them to be vocal, to be able to be the one to communicate for this squad. But is he going to be losing a lot of his hair this next split? Yes, he will. Is he going to be maybe getting angry at some players for mistakes? Yes, he absolutely will. Is it going to be absolute top tier content from Cloud9? Well, yes, it most definitely will. We might be getting a Breaking Point version 3.0 or something with this C9 squad, but positive changes, is this enough for them to maybe make it to the World Championship or be not so fragile when it comes to playoffs? Because it's a distant memory that this team was undefeated, 8-0 through the regular season and their first playoff series before absolutely crumbling against Lion and Team Liquid, but it's tricky to know if this is... I think it's going to be a positive. Is it going to be positive enough for them to be vying for that world spot? Well, that remains to be seen. But happy to see Tactical get another opportunity. His buddy in the bot lane, Zazel, also got promoted to Shopify earlier in this offseason. So big, mega sweeping changes for Cloud9. And still think unless Split 3 goes really well, they make it to Worlds, Blabber most likely going to be out as well for this squad when 2027 does roll around. But excited to see Loki back paired with Thanatos, because Thanatos and Vulcan deserve better. They both had rock solid splits. Vulcan got MVP, and Thanatos is right there in the conversation for best top laner in the LCS. So let's see what they can make do in Split 3. It's not just the LCS making all these wacky, wild, surprising moves. Over in the LEC, okay. Let's start with the less insane ones. And that is, SK Gaming, leader inactive for Split 3. Will not be the starting mid laner. Remains to be seen who's going to replace him, but that I think most people would be okay with. Maybe even should have done that after Split 1. Then it starts getting a little bit stranger. Giant X, Oscarinen is joining to replace Lot. And you might say, well, Lot looked like he was developing into a really promising young player, and Oscarinen is a fluctuating performer at best. We've seen him pop off in playoffs against Kana, and we've seen him borderline inting at times. So that's, gets a shaky mini question mark. Noah also leaving the squad. We're waiting to see who the starting AD carry is going to be for them. But Jun is staying. So the bromance of Noah and Jun going to be broken up. And obviously Noah was the guy at times for this Giant X roster. So now it's obviously going to be all about Jackies, who absolutely has potential. And then we get to the craziest one, and that is Humanoid being benched for Split 3. Yes, this is the first place regular season Vitality. Very similar trajectory to Cloud9, where they had an incredible regular season. You're very excited for them. And then they proceed to completely flounder out. Winless for Vitality in playoffs. Nearly winless for Cloud9, but is replacing Humanoid the answer? Is replacing Humanoid with Fiesta, who's been in the challenger scene in the LCK for several years? We got a few splits out of him in the LCK for Nongshim, and he was underwhelming at best. It's not like this is a Thanatos type coming with potential that hasn't even played in the LCK or has an incredibly young career. Fiesta's been around for several years, and I feel like you kind of know what you're getting, and is it going to be better than Humanoid? I mean, you can take all the negatives with Humanoid, him getting caught out, playing a little too loosey-goosey at times, and that can spread to the entirety of this Team Vitality lineup, but what we were praising during the regular season was the vibes for Vitality. It was both their blessing and their curse, right? When you're winning and the vibes are fun, you're going, wow, this is that power of friendship that works so well. And when you're getting bounced by Giant X in playoffs when you absolutely shouldn't be, and it's still kind of for fun, the boys are memeing in the voice comms, well, then you get a little bit of criticism coming your way. That's exactly what happened. But changing Humanoid, especially for Fiesta, like I would even accept a young upcoming ERL talent, but that just doesn't seem, that seems like a scratch your head kind of moment for Vitality. I can't imagine Karzi's going to be happy about this. I think Humanoid is still going to be on the roster. He's just benched, so maybe he does end up coming back later in Split 3. Maybe this ends up being a motivating factor for him, but the bow out of playoffs and now this move makes me think, I mean, there's no chance for Vitality cracking into that top 3 dynamic with MCoy, Carmine Corp, and G2, even with MCoy also having kind of a bow out in their final series that was disappointing in the playoffs. But usually this is spice reserved for the offseason, not in between Split 2 and 3. But again, even more so than the Cloud9 moves. Absolutely, I think if C9 didn't make any moves, whether it was coaching staff, whether it was players, people would be kind of upset. Nobody was asking for moves for Vitality. This was just a mental boom in playoffs. And even for Giant X beat Vitality went further than them in an upset, and they're making moves. Did they were Giant X really thinking if they had Oscar in, they would have beat Carbine Corp? Like I that's much more head scratching moves coming out of the LEC than what we got from Cloud9, and we'll see if it ends up paying dividends in Split 3. Maybe for Cloud9. I don't think that'll be the case for any of these LEC squads. But that is it today for League Unlocked. My name is Eric. Thank you to all you beautiful people for hanging out as always. And the next time we catch you, we'll be talking about some MSI action. Catch you on that flippity flip.